brothers, well, two brothers right now. We're doing episode 25, What the Fellas Think, a podcast designed to entertain, educate, and inspire. And again, if you've been watching consecutive videos of Pop the Red Balloon or Find Love, it's been a week since we announced who our next president, number 47, is. That will be Donald J. Trump. And since that time, we have gotten feedback from our last podcast going over the election. And first of all, before I get into it, you know, I throw down with two of the coolest brothers. Want to be showing up later, but right now we got one brother. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking of you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Brandon. I'm the super opinionated one and passionate one, but we definitely want our audience to be entertained, informed, and educated as well. So we don't want to put out false information. But we'll talk about our viewers and their opinions of our last episode.
Yeah. So if you're the passionate one, then what? Jeremy's the quiet one, no doubt. Who am I? Which one am I? Am
You
I
the
comic
jokester, man.
relief?
Yeah,
I'm
you the
comic
jokester.
relief. I like to crack jokes, but you can always tell when I'm serious too. We talk about a lot of things that affect us day to day or affect us down the road. So you do see my serious side as well. I guess because I'm the guy with all the props every now and then that I'm labeled the jokester. But I guess some people take my opinions as jokes, and no, they're not. I'm dead serious. That one thing I will not go into, I will just mention the initials BG. No, I'm not joking. I'm passionate about it, but we're gonna move on before we get into it. I want to start by talking about the NBA, and I know we've been talking about viewership dropping. I saw something where they saying that the reason for the drop in viewerships is they're taking too many three pointers. I want to be open to that, but I don't see that being an issue. I mean, and if it is, then we need to institute a 4 point line, little couple of feet back.
I think
Yeah,
that don't work for the big three. So why don't add the gimmicks? I don't like that.
too
I don't
much.
like that. I think that's too much. Like
Okay.
last night's game between Dallas and Golden State was entertaining, and they were
Mm-hmm.
shooting threes. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
lot of dunking and all that. They were shooting threes. That game was entertaining. I think the numbers for the NBA are decreasing because they are gearing towards more of a push to go towards the streaming apps, and I think that takes away from it to me. And it's all the advertisement and stuff. I think they're doing a little bit of overkill to that.
It's
Like
all about money.
yeah, I think they're doing a little bit of
What they're
overkill to that.
losing, what they're losing in viewership, they're gaining in money because had these big contracts signed and put out. So I hope the fans come back. I'm not a big fan of the colorful courts. That's a little too much. That's a little too showy, kind of distracting if you ask me. Like with the past All-Star game, not the actual All-Star game itself, but the competition and the celebrity game, they used an LED floor which it could change on the spots, all types of different stuff. I hope they don't institute that into the games. Definitely distracted for the players. Let's get back to some old-fashioned defense, going to the hole, earning those points.
I
Think
think
that'll
that
do it.
it's just like the NFL though. You make the game too soft, and nobody will watch it. Like it. I think one game I was watching with the Knicks and Philly. Jalen Brunson is a great player. Let me just throw that out there. But it's too much of the flailing your arms all over the place, bumping into people, drawing fouls, the James Harden style of play, and it makes the game boring, really, because you can't.
Again, a player of that caliber that shouldn't be flopping. And also, I'm talking about LeBron James too. Jordan in his early days, and I'm not the biggest advocate for Jordan, but it is what it is. This is the truth. In his early days, he was getting banged around, wasn't getting no calls. But as his star power grew, there were certain moves to the hole, especially coming off the baseline, and he'd lean in, he would automatically get that foul call. Jordan didn't flop, and if he did complain, it was justifiably so. There was fists and elbows and all type of body parts being thrown at him. He didn't flop. He took it like a man. LeBron, you're ruining your legacy doing that.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
one thing. That's
go
one
ahead.
thing that's I think for everybody. Whether you got Luka Doncic, uh you got Jalen Brunson, you got multiple players doing this. Julius Randle, like you, that's not basketball.
Okay, so moving along to the NFL, because we got a special guest coming on today. And as soon as I speak it, I think he's just entered the room. So without further ado, I'm going to let him into the room and go to the focus of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have on the show right now my actual personal doctor and Jeremy's doctor, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, how's it going?
Good, nice to see you.
Same
I'm just
here.
turning on him.
So we talked about this probably a month and a half ago, or bringing you onto the show, and you suggested the month of November, which is Movember. It's a focus on men's health, and I thought this would be perfect for you to come on and speak to men of age. Uh, there's probably things we were doing to our bodies in our teens and 20s, and probably well into our 30s that we shouldn't have been doing, and it's catching up to us in our 40s. So that's why I wanted to bring you on. Thank you for making time for us. We really, really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jer- Jeremy's being held up. He's going to try to join in later, but for now, we're going to
Okay.
keep the show going.
Great, great.
So, one thing I want to start out with, and I'm sure we're going to bounce around with health. Lately in the news, there's been like massive recalls of chicken and massive recalls of beef. One with the chicken, there was over it was a huge number, and it was laced with listeria. And then with the beef, it was causing illness, and in one case, it actually caused death, and that's with the McDonald's hamburgers.
You know what?
W-
Actually, I believe it was the onions that they traced it to. Correct me if I'm
I heard that. I heard that too.
yeah.
But anyway, we living in a world where it's different 20, 30 years ago, where we had the supply and demand, the supply to meet up with the demand for consumption of beef and chicken. Now they're doing things to the cows and chickens to make them grow faster, grow bigger to get more out of them. And in those chemicals they're putting into their bodies, we're digesting ourselves. What's safe to eat nowadays? That's what I want to know.
What's
What
safe to eat? Well,
you know,
you know what? So anywhere there's a mass production, you can get problems. I can tell you what I do. I eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lentils and beans, nuts and seeds, and those I consider safe. You know what? And again, if something sits around, like for example, if you have rice that sits around, like the fried rice that you buy, and it's sat around for 5 days or so, you can get a disease called Bacillus cereus. So anything can become contaminated. And as you saw the onion thing, about the Chipotle thing some years ago, you remember that?
hmm
There were melons which were tainted with listeria. I had a patient with brain infection because there's nooks and crannies in the melon. When you don't wash it thoroughly and you cut through it, the inside of the melon gets contaminated.
hmm.
Right. In a lot of cases, the reason for that is contaminated water that they're irrigating crops with. Um, do you know that in a lot of locations, they use animal manure to irrigate crops?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a real concern for communities of disadvantaged people, communities of color. So, that, a lot of the poor communities have that problem where the houses there's toxic air that you can smell in the environment because they're irrigating the crops in mass. Do you know about what's called a manure pool? Have you
No,
ever heard of that?
no, I
So
haven't.
wherever there's mass production of animals, like let's say you have a hog farming operation, it's not just 5 or 6 hogs, it's not 10 to 15 hogs. It is many, many, many hogs. And what do animals do? You know that book that children read, Everybody Poops, right? So there's so much manure and urine produced that they don't know what to do with it. So they house it in a huge manure pond. And they take that pond, they dip into it, and they irrigate all the crops because, crops need nitrogen. So
Right.
it's just an easy way to get rid of the manure.
Hmm.
I mean, there's so many downstream repercussions of it. But if you look at the food production system, it is highly broken. So, did you know that right before our pandemic that we're dealing with, there was a pandemic there was a Netflix documentary called Pandemic in the fall of 2019. Did you hear about that? So,
It's
interestingly,
on my
in that
list to watch,
documentary,
actually.
so why are egg prices higher? Why is chicken higher, right? Because they get flu, and when they get flu, they kill them in mass. So they take foam and they pipe it into this massive warehouse where the chickens are housed, and they kill them off. Um, they don't mess around because they don't want flu in our food supply and they don't want flu spreading.
Right.
So euthanasia they call it, but it's not. It's just euthanasia. It's not euthanasia. Euthanasia is what you do with your dog. If there's something that's incurable, that's not what they do with these farm animals. They don't have the same rights. So when you scratch the surface, you dig underneath, you find so much, and it's absolutely disgusting. You don't want to eat that food. So, for example, there's a video that shows the normal chicken processing. It's by the chicken industry, and it shows them having the chickens take a final dip in water tainted with manure. And there's a
Hmm.
few reasons why they do that. It pumps up the chickens, it increases their weight for sale. Um, but there's a lot of practices that are usual and customary that we don't think about because we get it in the nice package. We don't think about what happens before, right? But there's an old Buddhist practice where you trace the process back to the origin, right? So with a child, you can ask, where does this apple come from? Right? So you trace it
Hmm.
one step backwards, which is the tree. Where did the tree come from? You trace that backwards to the seed, um, and then the ground and the sun and the rain and the earth,
Right.
so that in this mindfulness meditation, you eat the apple and you consider all of the steps that went in. You appreciate the sun, you appreciate the rain, the farmer, the person who carried it to the grocery store and picked it, right? And you give gratitude for this apple that's in your hand. What if you did that same process with a package of chicken breasts from the store that looks clean, right? How would you trace it back? Let me ask you.
With the chicken?
Yeah, you would trace it back. You'd think of some horrible things,
I'm
what they
sorry. Are
do.
you talking about tracing back the origin of the chicken?
The process that,
Oh,
that
the
it takes to
process.
bring the chicken into the grocery store and into your cart.
So
The
if
whole
Jeremy
process,
was
meaning from
here,
the beginning.
Jeremy used to upkeep a processing factory for sausages,
Yeah,
and he saw what it went through, and to this day he will not touch a brat.
right,
So,
right. But the same processes are used in all animal products. So, have you heard of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle from about, let's say, more than 110 years ago? This book was written.
no, I
So,
never heard
this
of it.
book,
Okay.
Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, was required reading in my middle school class, English class, right? And it's a
Hmm.
classic novel that's written so powerfully. And it traces the story of this gentleman named Jurgis Rudkus, who is a Lithuanian, who, his motto is, I will work harder, I will work harder. So the story was intended to detail the immigrant experience of the US and what they went through, right? He just happened to land into a meat packing factory because, as you may know, Chicago was the meat packing factory capital of the world. You know, that
Yes.
there were the trains took the animals into the city, right? All those trains, freight trains.
Hmm.
And then we had an endless supply of immigrants to work in the factory, right? So
Right.
today the names have changed, the immigrants' faces have changed a little bit. But guess what? Those immigrants are subject to human rights violations in those factories. And if you go to the website hrw.org, Human Rights Watch, and just search the things that happen in the animal industry, you'd be horrified. So
So
we're
I
not
don't have
just
a
talking about animals, but people.
right. So let me share an experience with you. This was years ago.
Hmm.
Just out of nowhere, I decided, I said, no red meat. I'm going to cut off red meat. I'm just going to do it for a week.
Hmm.
And I say the first couple of days were kind of difficult, but I got accustomed to it real quick. And so a week ended, and I was like, you know what? Let me go another week. And so I ended up going 3 weeks without eating red meat.
That's
And
great.
so after 3 weeks, how do I decide to celebrate? I said, I'm going to have me a steak.
Yeah, isn't that ironic? Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's kind of
after
like
I,
Lent, right? Lent, you have Carnival, which is the last hurrah,
mhm.
and then after Lent, you celebrate by eating all those things you gave up.
Right. So after I had that steak, after 3 weeks of eating no steak, I really felt I didn't realize the difference of how more energetic I was. But after eating that steak, it just drew me down so quick, I guess, after detoxing, so to say, for 3 weeks and then consuming that one steak, I just felt just getting pulled down again. So it's crazy uh what I felt, and I've been trying to get back into that place again. And I'm sorry, let me introduce Brandon. Brandon's our third
Sure.
host. Brandon's a good
How you
friend of
doing?
ours. We all,
Hello.
me, him, and Jeremy used to work together, but we
Hmm.
continue to be friends. And now we're doing the podcast. But yeah, it's crazy what that one steak did to me after 3 weeks of detoxing my body, and
Yeah, that's true.
scary.
But
I
what
gotta.
you experienced, real quick, is like, let's say you go into a spotless temple that's pristine marble, right? And you'll notice a little speck on the ground, right? Whereas you go into a unclean place, like let's say the CTA in Chicago station, right? You won't notice little garbage because there's a lot there, right?
Right.
That's the effect that you felt. Same idea.
So what we also, and what I want you to kind of take the floor is speak to the people right now, especially the gentlemen, that are in their 30s, and now they're starting to see these changes in their bodies, or gentlemen in their 40s that it's past that point, and now they're on different medications. What should we be doing? Exercise, diets, fasting. What do you recommend to continue or lead a healthy lifestyle?
Sure, yeah, I can give you the rundown. So, what my specialty is, I'm a family physician with the additional certification of lifestyle medicine. Lifestyle medicine is the use of therapeutic lifestyle changes, which means at a level enough to make a difference, right? That incorporates six principles. So, number one is what we call plant predominant diet, right? Which is what you experienced. So, that means like, any way along the spectrum is helpful. But if someone generally would get to even 80% of their food from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lentils, and beans, people know it as the Mediterranean diet, right? And some people go all the way if they're sick enough, right? And I've seen benefits from that. But it's up to the person. But plant predominant diet, mindfulness, which is stress management, physical activity, which did you know that exercise is only a small fraction of the total calories we burn every day? So that's why I say physical activity, which can include exercise.
Hmm.
Um, And how much is up to the person. You start where you are and you do one step better and you keep going, right? Um, and personally, I've found great benefit in the company called Orange Theory Fitness. It is voted #1 health club in the whole US, and actually, they have locations worldwide. So I'd
Okay.
highly recommend any guys to give it a try, even if you're not in shape. That's the idea. So we mentioned plant predominant diet, stress management, physical activity, avoidance of risky substances, which can include tobacco and alcohol. And for some people, caffeine, some people can't take it. And then social relationships. So, how many people live through their life and they have toxic relationships? They complain about people, the work people, the home people. You can't change people, but you can change yourself and your attitude towards them, right?
Okay.
So, and the last thing is sleep health. How many people have sleep apnea? Too many. And then poor sleep habits, such as staying up too late, not getting enough sleep. The ideal is roughly 7 for most people of restful sleep. So by combining those 6 pillars of health, I think we can prevent probably at least half, if not more, of chronic diseases.
And I can actually admit I'm kind of doing poorly in those areas, but I am trying to improve. Uh, Jerry, I mean Brandon, do you got any questions so far?
Well, speaking as a person, my younger years, I didn't have to take medication. In my 20s, I was active. I was able to run, lift, everything. But now in my 30s, I have diagnosed with high blood pressure and now I take medicine. And my lifestyle is the eating side of things. I just eat whatever. And I don't really eat the fiber that I should eat. My wife always tells me. But I've recently had to have a colonoscopy. And they, I had polyp, I had one polyp in a growth and bleeding in the stool, all those unhealthy issues. And for me as a person, I feel like if I'm active, this is my own thinking. If I'm active, lifting weights, running, I should be okay. But it does come down to what you eat, like you said. And for me, what would be your advice as a person like me who doesn't do the diet, doesn't follow the diet, just works out, does the active stuff, and just thinks that's going to help, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, so physical activity is absolutely great and it can make up for some of the failings of an unhealthy diet, yes. But to have optimal workout, there's a movie called Game Changers documentary where they follow athletes, elite athletes, and they show them improving their situation, like the tennis players, Serena and Venus Williams, and many Olympians and many other athletes. So, but you know what? Start where you are. So the question is, what's one change that could be so beneficial? So it can be as simple as one apple, right? It can be as simple as having a whole glass of water in the morning, right? So sometimes when you just make one change towards the positive, it often steamrolls into other changes. Like, for example, someone doesn't exercise. So as doctors, who are trained in lifestyle medicine, which is has the skill of motivation, we say, why don't you put your shoes by the front door? Just start with that. And you know what? If you see those shoes every time you leave the house, maybe you might be reminded, okay, you know what? Maybe I should put them on and take a walk, right? So sometimes these small things can spark bigger habits. So there's a book, for example, called Atomic Habits, right? So if you take small changes and add them up. So for example, there's 52 weeks in a year. Can someone make one change per week and make it stick? And then once you stack everything, habit stacking it's called. You stack 52 things on top of each other, you've just transformed so much. So instead of trying to do it all at once, some people do it all at once, and that's their choice. But other people, they like the incremental approach. And if someone is young, there's usually more time. And you know what? Positive changes is adding a fruit or adding a vegetable. That's a positive change. Whereas negative changes is taking out stuff. But what works better that I've seen is adding in stuff that pushes out the not so healthy stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you brought up water, and I remember reading something, and it really sticks heavy in my head, that we should start our day with a glass of room temperature water. That I believe wakes up the organs. Is that true?
Yeah, or it can be herbal tea.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
A-
great too. Warm or whatever herbal tea. The idea is that it helps the digestive system to activate.
And I also heard that I guess most people shower. They say drinking cold water prior to a shower helps reduce the blood pressure rate. Is that true?
So I haven't seen the research on it, but on the other hand, blood pressure is such a complicated issue that crosses sleep, stress, healthy eating, salt, water intake. But I would just say focusing on water. Water is a great cancer prevention, heart health prevention. Someone can of course overdose. I wouldn't suggest drinking gallons of water. That can harm you. But just drink like, a reasonable amount, which would be, maybe adding in starting with 20 ounce twice, for example. That's reasonable.
Okay.
So normally at least doctors I've seen in the past recommend at least a gallon a day of water. Do you
So
think
that's
that's
okay, and some people need it. I would
mm,
say drink water to your needs, right?
okay?
So, for example, someone's eating a big salad that has water. You're eating an apple that has water. Soup has water. Herbal tea has water. So it's part of the whole plan. The key is to start small, right? Because if you drink too much, you're going to be in the bathroom all day. That's not healthy.
And so
So,
I'm glad you said that because you just cleared up something for me. When I think, oh, we must consume so much water, I'm thinking just physical water. But you said it's in the tea, it's in the fruit, it's in the salads. So we're getting different sources, not just pouring a glass of water itself. And I think that's what everybody's doing is pouring water. But there's other sources of to get water in your fruits, your salads, like you say,
true.
drinking your tea in your soups. Yeah.
But there's one thing. So when someone is hungry and thirsty, they'll eat more. When someone's only hungry and not thirsty, they'll eat less. So part of water intake is also to curb the appetite.
30 minutes before a meal, correct? Or
Something like that. But that's not that important. If someone has digestive problems, yes, it's important. Most people can drink the water together. The idea goes back to ancient times where it was thought that water would dilute the digestive juices.
hmm,
So let's say, yes, it's important, but the amount of water you drink with a meal is kind of small.
okay.
There was one
S-
question I wanted to ask, because you bring up fruits, and I know a lot of people say certain fruits have different benefits. What what fruits do you take, and then what fruits do you recommend people to take, or just all fruits?
Oh yeah. All fruits are good, but the more colorful the better. For example, the benefit of the apple, a lot of it's in the peel, and most people would throw away the peel, and that's not good, right? So,
Guilty.
and so with grapes, they're very healthy, no matter what, because they have resveratrol, which you've heard about for wine, right? It's not the alcohol that's healthy, it's the grape. You can drink a little bit of Welch's grape juice and get similar benefits for that resveratrol. And then let's say the top of the line for fruits is berries. They have the most antioxidant power, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and the highest amount of fiber of any fruits. But all fruits are good fruits generally. I had a patient lose 50 pounds. She was a young lady, roughly 25 or 26. And what she told me, she had sweet addiction. She got off of the sweet addiction by having 5 servings of fruits in the mornings. And because of that, so many fruits, she wouldn't crave sweets all day. And she
Mm,
lost 50 pounds by eating that much fruit.
okay. So, Dr. Garg, are you familiar with the barcodes on the fruit? We brought this up in a previous podcast, and there's certain codes on the fruit. And let's take, for example, the orange. It tells you like with the if it starts with 9 and I think like 5 digits, it's good to eat. It's organic, and then it goes into if it's this and that, yeah, it has pesticides and stuff like that. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, and certain pesticides have certain codes, but what I would say is, yes, there might be a small negative effect of the processing and pesticides, right? But the benefits of fruits way outweigh that. The
So let's say,
benefits
for
of eating fruit
example,
would
an
way outweigh it.
orange. Let's say,
Yeah,
for example, an orange that, has been, sprayed with pesticides. Of course, we're
right,
not eating the outside of the orange,
right.
even though I still wash it off. So is it sort of say is it's almost sort of safe to eat those because you're peeling back the peel to eat what's inside?
Right. And you know what? Not everyone can afford organic because organic is expensive.
Yeah.
So non-organic strawberries would be $1, organic would be 5, right? So it's a huge difference. You've gone to Whole Foods, so you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. Any fruits are better than no fruit. So eating a non-organic apple is still better than not eating the apple.
Okay.
Benefits way outweigh any pesticide residue that's left. But generally speaking, if you want to wash them well, wash them in a little bit of vinegar. So, like a spoonful of vinegar with some water. That is the best way to get your fruits cleaner. And guess what? They last longer, and your greens as well.
I do that practice with my strawberries. It's
Yeah.
1 part vinegar, 2 parts water, and that's what I do. I switch it around, then I rinse it off, and they last longer. You're cleaning off the bacteria and everything, and they last longer in the refrigerator.
They
Um,
preserve, yeah, and it doesn't have to be that much vinegar. It could just be a little tiny bit.
okay.
But yeah, great practice. But just the key is I don't want people to be afraid of fruits. There's a lot of myths that are flying around,
Hmm.
and fruits are, beneficial and healthy no matter what, even if they're not organic. Now, if someone has the finances and they want to find out which fruits are really helpful to buy organic, they can go to ewg.org, Environmental Working Group, and look up the Dirty Dozen.
Okay. The
And so
Dirty
it
Dozen
also has
has.
Clean 15. 30 dozen as in the dozen fruits and vegetables that
Hmm.
you should buy organic. And Clean
Okay.
15, it's kind of okay to not buy organic.
So with that said, the cleaning method I use for strawberries, could that be done for grapes as well with the vinegar and water or
Oh yeah, yeah. The strawberries from the 30 dozen.
okay.
So, but again, better to eat the strawberry even if not organic than not eat them.
Okay. That's great. What type of testing should a men of age, or at what age should they start seriously inquiring about certain testings on their body? So, what kind of test can you tell us, and what's the age that men should start, going seeing their doctors and get tested for?
Yeah. So, I'm a family doctor. So generally the blood work generally starts at age, it can be from 8 to 11. And so I would say a lot of parents don't want the blood work. A lot of kids talk their way out of the blood work. What that does, it screens for diabetes and cholesterol. And I think that's important. And then if you don't catch them at that time, at least age 18 to 20. And generally speaking, if someone is checked every 5 years, that's a good practice, right? While they're young. Then you
Hmm.
get to 40, and it's probably good to check every couple of years. Then once someone gets to 50, blood work probably should be done once a year because insurance covers it. And then let's say roughly around age 45 or so, the cancer screening start. which for some men can be PSA, um, and for prostate cancer screening, PSA blood test, and
Hmm.
colonoscopy or Cologuard. So if anyone, is low risk and they want to do something simple, they can just put the stool in the box and send it by mail and they'll get the result. And it's actually a very good company. They have very accurate results. And let's say it's not as good as the colonoscopy, but it's nearly as good.
Okay. No, I'm really, I'm gonna definitely go back and rewatch this episode again. You've
Yeah.
supplied us with a few websites to check out. I definitely want to check those out. I don't want to be rude and writing them down as we speak, but again,
Yeah,
glad that
sure.
you took time to talk with us. Brandon, anything else you got?
Well, I wanted to ask you because, like I say, I'm a person. I hate taking medicine. I hate I hate doing a lot of stuff, eating healthy. My wife always gives me crap about that. But to me, as a person with my lifestyle, I've seen a lot of uh, I'll say celebrity trainers. They'll say eat whatever you want, just work out a lot. And these guys
Yeah.
get these athletes or Hollywood people get amazing bodies from it, but I don't think that's truly sustainable. I myself have tried eating pizza, everything is just working out, and it makes you feel incredibly sluggish and all that. My gut
Yeah.
health, my gut health is at its worst when I eat that way. For
And
me, I
recovery is better by eating healthy.
yes. Um, one thing I wanted to ask you about that is what's a other than fruit, what's a good source for gut health, like your
Oh,
digestive
yeah.
system?
Very simply, the fiber that comes from foods. Fiber is found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, like, for example, oats, barley, brown rice, wild rice, whole grain bread, for example, Ezekiel, for example, and then lentils and beans. Very few Americans eat beans and lentils regularly. Now, I want you to think back to your childhood. Did you have more lentils and beans at that time?
A lot more. A lot
Yeah. See, why
more.
why is that? Why not now? Right? They're the healthiest food.
I
So fibrous food feed the good bacteria in the gut, and they also are linked to prevention of disease. Can you believe that 95% or greater of men don't get enough fiber?
I can
do,
believe that.
they always say, do you think it's beneficial to eat things like yogurt, or is that
Yogurt is fine and good, but it's really the fiber that feeds the bacteria.
okay?
Yeah, and there's kombucha and other foods that have probiotics in it. I don't know if you ever tried kombucha, but people overdo it on the kombucha. All someone needs is 1 ounce of kombucha a day for gut
What
health, for example.
could
Kombucha
you?
is a fermented tea.
All right. If
And they
you
sell it in stores. It's like bottles like this, and so he's saying 1 ounce a day, and people are probably drinking that one bottle in one sitting, which is overdoing it. So I got a question. We live in a world right now where we rush, and one of those things we kind of skip on is fast food. They're everywhere. They're every other block, so you can't not miss one. What healthy options can we kind of convert into fast food? What can we kind of keep in hand, like in the car or at work at our desk to kind of get us through?
I'd say the easiest ones are fruits and nuts. Like buying that small bags, those small individual bags that you buy at Sam's or Costco, a
Hmm.
trail mix with various nuts and a few raisins. That's not so bad.
So, debunk a myth for me, because I like cashews. I
Hmm.
heard that, and being that I am diabetic, I heard that I shouldn't be consuming cashews. Is that false or true?
It's all a matter of degree. So let's say someone has 2 handfuls of cashews. That's not bad. You shouldn't consume 16 ounces of cashews.
Okay, and
That's
that's
all.
usually the size of the bag.
The size of the container, yeah.
So I like to take it a little further too. I'm kind of partial to the honey roasted. If
Yeah.
I keep that down to a minimum, is that okay or no?
I'd say get rid of the honey roast. It's too much sugar. You'll be shocked at how much is in there.
I believe it because I mean I
Yeah.
kind of thrive off of flavor. So, you
Yeah.
know, like right now I'm drinking this body armor. It has
Right.
flavor to it. I could just as well I could drink this in one sitting, but it'll take me
Yeah.
forever to drink the water in this size because of the
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I have an idea for that. Okay. At work, we have this program of fitness and weight loss called Wonder Health. And I think it's a great company that coaches people through weight loss using, pre like pre-made videos and advice. So they have a method called H2 Orange. And what they give you is they give you a huge water bottle. It has a line that you fill orange juice, like literally maybe 1 ounce, and the remainder is water.
Hmm.
So 1 part orange juice and maybe 16 parts water, something like that. And so that gives you just enough sweetness to keep you interested. So
Okay.
you can do the same with grape. You can do the same with any juice, apple juice, or lemonade. Just a little bit in there to give you the flavor. And you try it out. You'll notice it's pretty good tasting.
Now I have done it with lime slices or lemon
Yeah.
slices, just to give it that little, something that to
Yeah.
intrigue you with it. But I can do it with orange juice too. Okay.
Yeah, or any juice. It's worth a try because it helps. I used to have Diet Coke every day, and the way I got off is I would use the soda water and mix it with grape juice, like literally 1 ounce or two of grape juice and the rest soda water. And what
Okay.
it did, it gives you kind of a illusion of having something that's tasty because it's dark color.
All right.
Is
So
there a?
it's
I'm sorry,
go ahead,
cut you off,
Brandon.
brother.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is there a time of a like the time of the day should you like stop eating at all?
Yeah, generally like 2 hours ahead of bedtime is a good time to stop.
So it's never like because for me, I go to bed late. I go to bed like
Yeah.
11 o'clock,
Yeah.
and I regularly and I'm waking up through the night too, actually. So that's
Yeah.
my
Well, the
gift.
key is not to wake up and eat. So, yeah. Just like finish dinner and let's say, 9 p.m. and don't eat again till 9 a.m. That's the best thing someone can do.
Oh, so it's a 12-hour period, or what is that? Yeah,
If
12-hour
if you
period.
want complete digestion, and you
Mm.
know how people say, "Well, I'm not hungry for breakfast." Well, what time did you have dinner? If you had dinner at midnight, of course you're not hungry for breakfast, right? So to eat breakfast properly, your stomach has to be empty.
And it's always that good 12-hour period to practice, or
Oh, it can be close to 12 hours, but it's a good general rule of thumb. So the researchers figured out the best meal times. They were roughly 6, 12, and 6 because there's a
Okay.
far enough interval to digest everything to get rid of the glucose from your bloodstream.
what's a what's a good for me? I like the level of salt in food. Like always,
Hmm.
I can taste it more that I now that I've have high blood pressure.
Hmm.
What's a good well, I know I already know meat to avoid, certain meats to
Yeah.
avoid. For someone on high blood pressure who is a meat lover, what's a good food to eat that will not trigger like spikes in my blood pressure?
So, potassium containing foods, magnesium containing foods, magnesium's in lentils and beans.
Mm.
Potassium is in potatoes and fruits and tomatoes, bananas, right? Those are good because they help reduce. Now, a lot of salt is hidden in like salsas, sauces, dressings, cheeses, processed meat, processed grains like bread. right? So if you have a commercial sandwich, there's a lot of salt in there. You go to Chipotle, you order a burrito, there's enough salt for 2 days.
Wow.
Oh wow, you
Because
just
people
scared
get
me.
all the salsas, they get the cheese, right? They add everything to it. And everything's very salty. But once you reduce the salt, then you don't crave it anymore. So one can of soup has enough salt for the whole day. Why? Because they list 2 servings. Well, you usually have a can of soup. You don't have half a can of soup.
That's
I
right.
I noticed that in our former job, we used to travel a lot, and I noticed overseas the portions of food is a lot less.
Right,
Like a
right.
large
Even if
is.
you go to McDonald's Paris, right? They have
Mhm.
breakfast and their croissant is the size of your thumb.
So actually, I got a McDonald's story. I went to Australia and I ordered a quarter pounder with cheese meal,
Yeah,
and I ordered a large drink. So
yeah,
when they called me up, they hand me my cup, and my cup was probably 16 ounces. I said, I ordered a large. And they were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that is a large.
Yeah, it's
So,
American medium.
so right then and there, it was like America promotes obesity because a large
Yeah,
here is probably 26, 32 ounces. But here and the meat tasted different. I'm not saying it was better,
right,
but
right,
it
right.
definitely
Yeah,
had a different taste to it.
right. Everything is different, but we're here in America. We have to make do. So let's say, for example, someone goes to Chipotle, just using that example, right? A way to save calories, number one, don't get chips, and that salt is too much in the chips. Don't get tortilla, get a burrito bowl, leave out the sour cream, leave out the cheese, put on the guac. And guess what? If you order a veggie bowl without meat, you get free guac. And it's very filling, right? So there's always ways to modify fast casual and make it, let's say, less unhealthy.
Hmm. One important question, and I want the audience to hear it from a doctor. Men have this thing where they feel something like if they're having headaches or they're having aches, their mindset is, it'll go away, and they'll try to put it out their mind. And I'm sure you probably heard this before from your patients. So from a doctor's perspective, and feel free to use whatever colorful language you need to use, but
Yeah,
what do you tell your patients, male patients, especially that, when they say, you know what, I was just hoping it would just go away, but it didn't go
yeah.
away.
So I'll tell you the scariest thing is heart disease, right? Because the symptoms can be so vague for people. It can be as simple as fatigue or jaw pain or shortness of breath, and they think, oh, I'm just old. And by old, we're saying 45 plus, right? Shoulder pain, arm pain, so many possibilities. Um, but just know that for someone without symptoms, there is a way to get screened for heart disease, which is a CAT scan of your arteries. So most hospitals around Chicagoland, at least, offer it from anywhere from $50 to $100. And it's a very reasonable test to do for someone who's of the age, which is 50 plus or strong family history, younger, 45 plus someone family history. So those symptoms can be so vague. It can be toothache. It can be like jaw pain. It can be tooth pain. Like such weird symptoms can actually be heart disease, what's called angina.
Right. So I'm hoping everybody hear this, and if you're in the age group that I am, I'm 50 years old. Um, don't ignore signs, no matter how minor it is. You're probably thinking, oh, I don't want to pay even if you get insurance, I don't want to pay the copay. We spend our money on a whole lot less important things than we do the important things. You're quick to plan a trip, but $20 copay can tell you if you're going to live to see the next year. So
Yeah.
don't
And it
don't spare
saves
the
money in
expense
the
on your
long
life.
run. You pay a little bit now, it'll save you thousands later or
Hmm.
tens of thousands. And most people don't know this, but the cardiology friends I have, They are happy to meet with a middle-aged man who's worried about heart disease without any symptoms, without any heart disease. This is something most men don't know. It's okay to ask for a, consultation with a cardiologist.
Yeah, it's so simple. We keep it. Sometimes we even keep it to ourselves. We don't even share that we're going through trials and tribulations. All I can say is we were doing things to our bodies in our 20s that we shouldn't, but our bodies were strong enough to fight it off. And we get older and we still think we can do the same things and we can't. So we really need to listen to our bodies, stop treating ourselves like we're in our 20s because we're not. I don't drink as much as I used to. I'm more, I'm a social drinker, but I got liquor that's sitting here on my cabinet that I walk past every day and don't have the desire to drink. That's just, I guess comes with growth. Uh, Socially, I'll have a beer or two and an occasional cigar, but it's not excessive as it was when in my 20s when I thought I was immune to everything, and
Right.
that I could fight off everything.
Yeah,
I
and you
would.
know what? Everyone has a different age for it. Some people can have heart disease starting at 30. What were you saying, Brandon?
I was just gonna say I wish I had this conversation in my 20s because those Friday Saturday nights was drinking and everything else. So it's
Yeah,
it's hard. That was a bad time of
yeah.
being in the 20s. You getting drunk
No,
But
and
they
there's
were
stuff.
good
always a
times.
way. It's always a way to repair for the most part, and things repair. So there's a saying in lifestyle medicine, given the right conditions, the body can heal itself. So just remember
Well,
that.
yeah, and like in certain conditions, like say drinking alcohol. I mean, you don't have to, stop like me, but I've seen a lot of older gentlemen in my why do they have their whiskey right here and a glass of water here? Well, for one thing, just drinking the alcohol, you're dehydrating yourself. But
Right,
drinking the water back, so to say, is you keeping yourself hydrated in the process while enjoying a good cocktail.
right.
Not
Yeah.
not waking up the next morning.
I think we're having
Oh yeah,
technical difficulties.
Wi-Fi issues. Yeah.
We should be
um,
doing that in tandem.
Yeah.
I just want to say I'm gonna remember those words because I definitely want to reverse my high blood pressure. That's my a health goal I have because I hate taking medicine of any kind. So
So there might be a chance, if it's so young, I don't know, but it's worth trying, right? So the idea is like with medication, there's a dose that works. Just like with lifestyle, there's a dose that works.
yeah, mine is a combination pill that I have to take. That's the only
Hmm.
one that really worked. I think
Right.
I tried two before of
You know,
10 milligrams and everything, but that didn't work. I had to do a combination.
yeah.
And I definitely want to. That's my health goal for my life to reverse that because I see
So
my
that's,
sister.
yeah.
I see my
So,
sister as high blood pressure. My mom has had high blood pressure, and I just don't want to deal with that.
so there are,
Sometimes that stuff is hereditary.
oh yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. And actually, there's a story about why African Americans have more hypertension. You know that?
Oh, what's
Is
the
it the
story? What's
pork?
the story?
So the story is that the African Americans who came to the US on the ships a long time ago had to hold on to their salt. Have you heard that? So
No,
those that could hold on to their salt made it to the US and the others didn't survive. So the idea is the African Americans have a special risk of high blood pressure that people don't have in native Africa
when you when
because
you
it
say
was
hold on to their
selection.
salt, when you say hold on to their salt, could you explain that? I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, because they wouldn't be able to eat and drink on the voyage.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say hold on to their salt, you mean were they given salt as a supplement on the boat ride
You know what? If
or
you really look into the history, you will be so sad because I remember this from American history class. I went to school in California, so they didn't hold back telling us stuff. So it is absolutely shocking and difficult to think about what went on these ships. So
No,
meaning retaining salt retainers,
okay.
as in those people that could survive without food, without water.
Okay. No, I mean in history class, I heard about the boat rides. Basically, you know, rolling around in their leftovers, their waste. And if you
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
rolling in yours, you were rolling in somebody else's. The food
yeah,
aspect, I don't think was really discussed. It was just the conditions in which they were transported
right,
in.
right. That's why we have to know the history, and then things make sense.
Mm.
I li- I like that because you just gave a vast of knowledge and information, books to look up,
Oh yeah,
stories
thank
to
you.
look up. That's I definitely appreciate you for coming on.
Sure,
Yeah, so I'm
thank
gonna
you.
definitely once we post this, I'll send you a link, Dr. Guard, but I'm gonna definitely review it myself because you did mention some websites that I'm real interested in checking out.
Great. Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of heart disease, can you believe that this very, um, you know, past researcher did research in Africa, and what he found were whole communities of people that lived without hypertension, without heart disease. And you know why? You have an idea? So this
Oh,
was Dr. Dennis Burkitt, Burkitt. So Dr. Dennis Burkitt discovered that they didn't have the diseases that Westerners did because, as you know, African diet is very much heavy on fruits and vegetables, right? Because they're
mm-hmm.
so good. Breadfruit, jackfruit, sweet potatoes, potatoes, vegetables of all kinds. Like, do a Google search, look up um, market in Kenya or market in Nigeria. Just look
Okay.
up what the food markets look like. They look totally different from ours. That looked
Mm.
like a farmer's market in the US, the regular market where you buy food from. So what he
Okay.
found is the fiber was the secret to health. They ate so much fibrous foods that that was the secret to not having blood pressure or heart disease. So it's not genetic that way, meaning that through the generations, things have changed, habits have changed, right? But if you think of your ancestry going way back, they actually had very healthy diet. Beans were common in immigrant populations when we came to this country. We ate mostly beans and lentils, whole grains, vegetables and fruits.
Mm.
Chips were not even an option for me.
So I don't know if you can see it, but I was trying to show you the picture of the that I
No, we can't.
found. Ah,
Oh,
my
the
background
market.
make
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
what?
it's
yeah,
not
Your
showing up
it's
filter is
well.
on. That's why we can't see it. You have to turn your
Yeah,
filter off.
let me see
Here.
if I can. Ah,
you got to turn the
yeah.
filter off to do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll Google that later. You're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
force us to see something we can't see. No, this has been real great. And Dr.
Great.
I really been looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Even
Thank you.
from the conception of this, of bringing you on. Uh, I've been following. I don't know how long I've been following him. It's been probably almost more than 10 years, I can honestly say. And he has moved from location to location. And every time I found him, I'm like, hey, you can't get rid of me this quick.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
he really really a doctor I could feel comfortable with. I think the doctor I was seeing prior to him, it really did. I didn't have a connect with him. It was just like he was just doing his day-to-day routine, and there was no emotion with it. But I latched on to you, Dr. Guard, because you seem to care. You
Yeah.
put out
Thank
the
you.
information, even when I'm being hard-headed and I go back to my old habits. Uh, every visit kind of re-sparks me again, and
Good. Good.
this
Yeah.
this recent health scare that I had really put in perspective that I've been carrying around this scar tissue since for 45 years, and it put me in this position where I had to have this surgery out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
it's really like at this point, it's like mortality is really really serious right now. So I'm trying to do the right things and get back in the right habits. Um, they have there's a phrase, 7 days routine becomes a habit. So I'm trying to make what I do now a habit. The food changes. I'm eating less meat. I'm not totally square off of it, but I'm eating less. I'm
And
eating
that's
more
great.
vegetables.
Like I
Uh,
said, 7 days times 52 is 1 year. Right.
so I mean, yeah, that's what I'm shooting for. I guess I'm really trying to really shoot for like a 180 lifestyle. I
Yeah,
still get some of my vices, but there's some changes
yeah,
that I know I definitely have to make.
that's great. And yeah, I just wanted to, oh yeah, I see it now. The market in
Much better.
Nigeria,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's the
It's a
difference. You're
Hey,
surrounded by it.
there's a roach on your wall. You shouldn't have took that filter off.
Yeah,
ignore him. Ignore him. He's
yeah,
crazy.
I'm sure he knows that by now.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, like I said, our motto, Dr. Garg, is
great.
educate, entertain, and inspire. And I
Oh,
guess I'm the comedic one.
yeah.
Jeremy, who's not here, he had a last minute obligations. He's more the quiet one, but when he does speak, he has volumes to share.
A lot of
And
wisdom. Yeah,
yeah, he does.
great.
He's when he speaks, he's like one of those things you should listen. To me, it's like he's talking. I'm gonna go get another drink. But then again, I do have my I do have my serious moments where I uh I really speak from the heart. And Brandon is, I don't know, he's the volatile one.
No,
When
no, no.
we get
No, it
into
was
a
fun.
subject, he can
Thank you
get
so
really
much.
worked up. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're all great guys. Jeremy.
Yeah, yeah,
You you uh you see his wife as well, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just saw her for the first time. What was it, about 2 weeks ago, Brandon? We had dinner together.
Going on, yeah, 2.5 weeks,
Yeah,
so
it'll
like
be
roughly
okay.
3.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, I hear you guys could like talk for hours after the appointment, that you guys just could go on and go on, and you guys are just talking away, and Jeremy's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a
but
lot of
I
fun.
really hope I'm going to share this on my personal social media page,
Yeah, yeah. I will share
uh
it too.
Brandon as well, and I
Mhm.
hope people listen to this. This was really something for the middle age male to
Yeah,
hear during
yeah,
Movember.
yeah.
So
That's great.
I was going to buy some Amazon
No, you
mustaches to
already
put
got
on
your
there.
mustache. Yeah,
Oh, this is because I haven't shaved in 2 weeks. I'm going. Got to get this cut off. This is.
yeah,
I feel like a caveman right now with all this on,
yeah.
really.
That's
But
great.
we really appreciate you making time for us. You literally
Thank you.
cleared your schedule to come on here,
Yeah,
and I
thank you.
really
No, it was
appreciate
fun.
that. And
I
I hope in
appreciate it.
return we can open up a lot of eyes to people and get them
Yeah,
to realize they need to see their doctor more, eat better, and remember that they're not 18 and 19 years old anymore.
yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, I just wanted to show you this one book. Okay. Um, do you see it? Oh,
Yes, we
it's in
do.
Spanish, but you see New Testament.
Mhm.
So this one book really has changed my perspective and changed my life. And there's a lot of health wisdom in there, if you can believe it. It goes back to the Old Testament too. So if you're just looking for a tidbit and a taste, go to Daniel chapter 1 in the Old
Okay,
Testament. There's a health experiment in there.
really.
Yeah,
Okay,
get back to me on what you think. Daniel chapter 1.
Daniel 1,
Damn,
the old
chapter
New
one.
Testament,
Old Testament
Old
chapter 1.
Testament,
Yeah,
Old
Daniel
Testament,
chapter
Daniel
1.
chapter 1. Okay,
Yeah.
don't have a pen in me. I should have a pen,
Yeah.
but Brandon, remember that.
Daniel
I'm
chapter 1.
already,
Yeah.
I'm already writing.
So it's a story of trial, of 10 days of healthy diet because they didn't want the king's food, animal sacrificed to pagan gods.
Hmm.
They didn't want the alcohol, right? So these kids, which were teenagers, got very, very healthy and they lived to a ripe old age and they were very wise, like the wisest people in the land, Babylon.
Hmm. So
So the
real
I think
quick,
we
it just popped in my head.
Yeah.
What's your stance on seafood? They lately they've been calling it the insects of the sea, shrimp,
Oh,
lobster,
shrimp.
crab.
Yeah, shrimp I always call cockroaches of the sea. So
Right.
I know.
I mean,
They're
health
the bottom
wise.
feeders. They have the dirtiest characteristics. So there's a reason why Jewish people don't eat them.
Hmm.
Orthodox Jewish, I mean, yeah. They have certain rules, and in the book of Leviticus, there's all these rules, and it includes shellfish.
Hmm. So not you're saying not just shrimp, but the crab and the lobster as well?
Yeah, exactly. So someone Orthodox Jewish won't eat all that.
Okay, but from a non-religious standpoint, from a health standpoint, are you pro or are you against seafood?
Well, those seafoods have the highest amount of saturated fat,
Okay.
right? So generally speaking, the benefits of seafood are very little when you substitute it with walnuts and flax seeds and whole grains and lentils and beans, those kind of things. But if
Okay.
someone has, let's say, once or twice a week, generally pescatarians are healthier because they don't have as much dairy and cheese and they
Hmm.
have better health habits.
Okay. Um, I think that's all I got.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you again, Brandon.
I think you've given us a lot of information to go on.
Yeah.
Who knows? We might do a follow-up interview a couple of months
Oh,
down the
yeah.
road.
Sure. And if
Uh,
you do have a list of questions, like
yes.
you can give it to me ahead of time and I can do a little research and have a more intelligent answer.
No, I think you
No,
did with great, but yeah, if we can prepare you in advance, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Brandon, you got any final words?
no, I just want to thank you for coming on. I apologize
Yeah.
for stepping
Thank
away.
you.
I
Oh,
had
no.
internet issues for some reason. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what happened there, but I took care of
Thank you so
that.
much, Brandon. It's been a
And
real
Thank you for
pleasure
coming.
to talk to you.
I know
Yes,
Jeremy's really
Yeah.
disappointed he had to miss out on this, but he'll see this and be mad even more. But thanks again, Dr.
Yeah.
Garg,
Thank you.
for taking your time out, and I guess I will be making an appointment with you soon.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I'd be happy to be with Jeremy too in the next time, whenever you
Okay,
want.
so I
Right.
mean, and at this point, I mean, I want to give you, if you want to advertise, are you taking on any new patients right now?
Yeah, we are. It's two locations, Carroll Stream and Hinsdale. And the
Okay,
company is Advent Health, ADVENT Health. And the reason, as you know, I've been at different companies. This is one company that has in their DNA healthy living. They started over 100 years ago with healthy habits, healthy living.
okay.
It's amazing what they did. They have a long legacy of healing with healthy habits, which is part of the Seventh Day Adventist Church.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on your website and take a
Sure.
snapshot, and then I'm going to
Okay.
post it onto our Instagram page.
Great, great, wonderful.
So the name of our podcast is the name of our Instagram page. I don't know if you're on social media, but if you want to, you can look
Oh
us up
yeah,
and
I will.
follow us.
Yeah, I
All right.
will.
All right. Well, I know you're ready to get out the office and head home. It's 7 o'clock.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
again,
thank you.
thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom. And next time we'll
Thank
be
you.
better prepared for you.
No problem. No, this was great. Thank you so much.
All right.
All
thank you.
right, take
All right.
care. All
Take
right,
care.
bye-bye.
Mhm.